They call us deplorable, and we love the name. They got the bodies in the dirt and need someone to blame. Got a penchant for greed and money to spare. They put the dollars in the coffers in the land.
Blog Talk Radio.
My goodness. I'm going to cover something off the cuff toward the end of this. And it's going to give you a little bit of a woolly booger. Let's see here. There we go. Fun and games, trying to keep all this stuff straight, keep everything going in the right direction and everything. Name of the show is Critical Mass. So, I'm going to play a song to start us off with. Everybody can get comfy and go get a cup of coffee like I'm going to do and listen to the music. My. You ready for it to be done? Everybody's waiting for the whatever to hit the fan, I'm sure. And then all of a sudden, some dummy, oh, what a dummy, some dummy opened Pandora's box. You remember Agenda 21 type population reduction? Anybody that don't needs to go look it up. Bring your education up to snuff. That is old, but it's real. And guess what? Let's start out with some fun. How about Happy Leap Year? Now, this is going to really screw with people's minds. I want you to do the math. This is a day that only exists once every 4 years. That brings about this question. How old are you if you were born on this day? I mean, you want to screw your mind up? Think about it. I bet the driver's license people will go crazy over that one. The things that are going on are really interesting if anybody's ever been watching any news. The info in the markets, and I got the markets from the all red line, is still negative. It ain't stopped going down. The Treasury yields is below 1% on the 2- and 5-year bonds, below 1%. That's supposed to be the place where it starts to fall over. Well, it already has. Central bank says, we can't fix this. Ooh, my. The people are supposed to know what's going on. The Fed says, well, we can cut interest rates. So what? It don't matter if you're a multi-trillionaire. It don't matter how much money you got. Truckloads. If you can't get it shipped, what's the point? Okay? It is stated, and these are by people other than myself, and you can listen to them. They come off, they pop off on different talking head shows, whether it's Fox or CNN, MSNBC, or whatever. Anyway, stated that when the yields get to 1%, there is a great danger of collapse. And this ain't ever happened before, so nobody has a clue as to what the breaking point is. They don't know when it's going to just die an exasperated death. They have no idea. Oh, all these wonderful experts that's supposed to be able to help you out. As the yield goes down, some say this is because everybody is buying them. I doubt that. The yield ought to stay up to what it was before this fun and games began. So, even though they're buying it, the yield shouldn't go down, but the price might go out of sight. It's, like build a better mousetrap and everybody buys one kind of thing. It's not difficult. The closer yields get to zero, the smaller the chance of recovery. And when I said there's two of them, 2-year and 5-year, are below 1%, that ain't good. That's nasty. Over the past few days, the Dow has gone down 3,220 points. an 11% loss. Now, that was as of Friday when I started writing this. In money, each 1,000 points valued at $1.5 trillion. Well, the loss so far is $4.83 trillion. That was as of Friday. As of today, now this was in the morning, as of today, we're over 4,000 points down. Now, every 1,000 points equaling 1.5 trillion, they have the evaporation of wealth is $6 trillion. Ain't nobody or nothing on this planet got that kind of cash, period. Those who take issue with President Trump's existence are objecting to his response to the virus. Hello, Schumer. I think you're full of stuff that should have been flushed, but that's just me. Get ready, and I mean get ready, for a freestanding and fully independent America. If you look at it, there's little other choice. We're one of the few countries on the planet that can do this. A lot of countries can bump along, but the problem comes in currencies and valuations. The dollar exploded in terms of value. Well, that means that you have inflationary forces at work, not necessarily true valuation. However, get ready for a freestanding and fully independent America. Now, there ain't much other choice, to be honest with you. But what you have to understand is how this works. If we want something, we're going to have to make it ourselves. It's like somebody said, well, how am I supposed to eat if I sit here and mind my manners? Well, if you're out in the woods, if you're in the redneck hillbilly area, if you ain't learned how to reach over and snatch up something, you're liable to get pretty hungry. It's real simple, okay? And no, I ain't making fun of rednecks. I live with rednecks in the area. This is gun country, cattle country. They raise sheep. They don't mess around. You screw around with one of them people, and you'll find out just how hardcore they are. Just that simple. No, this will not be the return to the labor-intensive pioneer times. Forget that. That does not mean that you're going to have to be out there in the middle of winter chopping wood. It also does not mean that you're going to have to be, that the wives are going to be stuck pretty much with making everything in terms of food and whatever you might want to consume on that level. What it means is that the needs are the same as before, only this time the isolation is not of our doing. And nobody had nothing to do with this. Everybody, Pelosi even got up there and said, forget politics, man, we got a problem with this virus. Well, okay, that's one part, and that's the smaller part of the rest of it. The virus is just a catalyst. It's just the one that started all the fun and games. It's the one that brought about the collateral damage. Now, who let the cat out of the box? Well, that's pretty simple, actually. I'll say it again. Everybody's heard of Agenda 21, population reduction. That was the idea that the deep state had in terms of turning this mother loose. What they failed to do was think it through and understand what all would come about from it. In order to control something that's super contagious in terms of like some sort of flu, which is what this is. This is flu on steroids and modified production. Anyway, they turned it loose. And now they cannot, they're moneymakers. The import-export, the manner in which they were accruing wealth ain't happening. You think the market went down? Trade has stopped. The BDI went negative. Remember, I talked about that last time. Oh, and by the way, while I was on the show last time, they took out one of Yahoo's servers so that it would thoroughly screw everything up if possible. They do not want my information out. They've turned off the power, took down Blog Talk, one of Blog Talk's servers. I mean, these people don't care. So the needs are the same as before. Well, this time the isolation is not of our doing. Okay, Italy, the country, shut down. Nothing is coming across their borders or into their ports, period. To be clear, without import-export, the choice is that we, and that's a royal we, as a nation, will have to make everything ourselves. Ooh, we do have the capability, by the way. There'll be some shortages in our imports. That means that some items will be hard to come by, but that does not mean that we're going to be solely reliant, as a lot of countries have been, on either export or import. The essentials of fresh produce need to be addressed immediately or sooner. Expect a lot of knee-jerk reactions. Everybody's going spastic over the, oh, my God, now what do we do? All my money went. All right, now here it is. This is a word of caution, and it applies to everybody that you know that can, or anybody that might be interested in listening to this. Get them a copy or however you want to do it. But the idea of hoarding or overbuying does not work well with things that are perishable. Fruits, veggies, that sort of, certain meats. Now, don't do it. I posted a thing on the Facebook page showing how the store shelves were cleaned, and I mean the only thing left was the instructions as to how to put the shelves together. All right, anybody who's been around a hurricane or big storms has seen this happen. You think you're going to be able to get something at the grocery, you go in there and there ain't nothing there to get. Think of the long term. Think of the long term of canned goods for flavoring beans and rice. You can get 50-pound bags of beans and rice, and believe me, it'll take you a while to eat 100 pounds of beans and rice. If you eat too many beans, you know what happens. But the deal is this. Think of the long term of canned goods for flavoring beans and rice. Fill your freezer with meat you like to eat. Now, another consideration that is a part of the preservation deal, this is prepper stuff. It's real simple. Consider grilling those meats, as when cooked, they last a longer time. And I mean a greatly long. Instead of 3 to 5 weeks or 3 to 6 weeks, you can get 15 or 20 weeks. Think about that. Lots of simple things to do and get. You need to take care of business so that you don't have a business problem coming down the road. Might consider many of the unnoticed but critical things, and there's a whole bunch of those. This stuff you use every day. These are critical items that makes your life hum along without having too much stress, duress, and problems, right? I have touted this before, and I'll say it again. You want to think about something unnoticed, but critical things. You want to get your mind right? Think toilet paper. How many preppers think of toilet paper? Not very many. That's only one of several. The American people need to start our very own industrial revolution and manufacture internally. That's what we're going to have to do. We can be a standalone nation, but everybody's going to experience that four-letter word, work. Whether they like it or not is not questionable. You want to eat, you work. I think somebody said that in the Bible. I do mean everything. Most needed first, and go from there. What's most needed first? Well, first of all, what we need to do as a people is to rescind the export of our petroleum products. Oh, they're going to hate that. Well, tough, just plain tough. If you can't get petroleum from anywhere else, but you got a good production locally, man, use it. Build some storage drums of some sort. Get it ready, get it going, get it up and running. Make sure that you got some kind of a refinery. Most of ours are on the coast, whether it's east, south, or west coast, doesn't matter. But what's going to have to happen is you're going to have to take some down there so people got gas to get to and from. What you have to understand, too, to go along with this ain't all doom and gloom. Our country, that's America, U.S. of A., has about 2 years to accomplish this. Now, that 2-year period is how long things will or can continue right here in the U.S. of A. in terms of normal living. Nothing extraordinary about it. Oh, yeah, I bet you thought a few months of this, and this could be fixed. No. Now, Microsoft has come out and stipulated that they have a serious supply chain problem. Well, they added a little bit of information. They said if the supply chain operated at its normal levels, or normally, it would take them 30 days to get their stuff back together again. 30 days. That was a week ago. When they started closing everything down, think about it. Microsoft ain't small potatoes. They got enough cash to buy just about whatever they might want to have. The only problem with buying stuff, and Walmart jumped up and said, that's fine, we'll buy everything we need. Well, so what? Buy all you want. Now let me see you get it from China or wherever you're buying it from to the States. You ain't going to do it, not when the BDI is only at par. Par means that they park the boats and they're not trying to repossess them. Think about that very carefully. Cargo container ships, your all of it, parked. As an example, be fixed. As an example, the Great Depression, and this is something you can look up. It's on line, no problem. I think I got it from WikiLeaks or whatever that wiki thing is. As an example, the Great Depression lasted from 1929 to 1954. Now, the great help that we had in the process of that was Second World War and the Korean War. That ramped up production and all these other things. The loss was in individual days and was about 25%, 2 days. And one day it fell over. The next day it fell over some more. Now, if you want to get into the reality of it, the stock market was 381 and change. It dropped to 41. They say 25%, and turn around and show you that that's a lie. Ooh, they don't want to scare you to death. No heart palpitations. Try 89%, from 381 to 41. Think about it. I'm just using round numbers. If we look at 25% as a real number, starting from 29,000, 25% equals 7,250 points. We're close to halfway there. Well, over 4,000 points down. Think about that. Oh my goodness! So we're above that halfway point, or that 25% point. Already. Ooh, keep watching. Oh yeah, bring some popcorn. You probably want to have something to munch on when you get excited. Now, here's the deal: the structure of America will allow the payouts to continue. Social Security, food stamps, benefits. Bear that in mind. Our structure is set up in such a manner that those things get paid first. Police and fire probably be the only people working, but this could last for up to 2 years. Ooh, I can hear everybody crying in their beer now. Oh, my. But expect things in general to stay the same or improve. Why do I say that? That's over the 2-year period. Pretty simply, the reason I expect things to be coming together the right way is very, very simple. America has a pioneering spirit. Now, the thing that a lot of people miss is changes, and I'm going to get into that here in just a minute. Listen. Changes. As I said, the deep state didn't expect everything to shut down, but they kind of did. They didn't expect their moneymakers to stop, but they did. Now what are we going to do? Okay, well, there's enough fun and games going on in the combination of the political realm as well as the financial industry, and we'll see what happens Monday. Now, I've looked at the futures. Futures are looking at 200 down again to start with. Now, think about that. You had 2 to the 3. That's 5. That's you're talking 500 and some points again. Woo-hoo-hoo. Now, you can only take so many woolly boogers eating you up before you lose it. I don't know if any bankers or oligarchs have jumped out windows lately, but you might consider some of these things. This thing, the week, February 28th, ended yesterday. Oh, it expired. My. Well, Trump's numerous attempts to block or end the Mueller investigation did not constitute obstruction of justice. That's nice to know. But Roger Stone, and I would expect Trump to pardon that man. And you got Paul Manafort. Now, this is a conduit to the Russians, is what this article says. This is Editor-in-Chief William Falk talking. Michael Flynn, who hid a $600,000 payment from the Turkish government. Trump will pardon them all. Now, Trump has concluded he has an absolute right to do whatever he wants, and that's what Bill Barr told him, and he might be right. Well, there's a problem with that. One of them illustrious stupids at a certain major newspaper put that shit in a format that is, oh my, defamation of character. Ooh. And they filed that lawsuit last week. Oh, and guess what? Mr. Talking Head, who does not know the law like he's supposed to, I'm talking about a certain pundit that comes on as a legal reference, stipulates he doesn't have any standing. How about kiss my Watusi, you dink? You don't have the knowledge to say that. Barr's pleaded Trump to stop tweeting. Well, good luck with that, first of all, Mr. Barr, but here it is. Ask the president to be selective, very selective. That's all he's got to do. Department of Justice officials from both parties called on him to resign, accusing him of repeatedly flouting the department's sacred obligation to administer equal justice under the law. Well, okay. Then all of the things that everybody's heard, where the police and other officials can lie to the public in order to entrap them, goes down the toilet. Barr's intervention led to 4 federal prosecutors to resign from the case, with one quitting DOJ entirely. Good. We don't need your deep state funky in the Justice Department. Ooh. And they accused Barr of blatantly politicizing the department. You didn't tell me it wasn't already politicized. Federal Judges Association collection 1,100 jurists. Ooh. Devoted to an independent judiciary called an emergency meeting to discuss what it called a deepening crisis caused by Barr. Now, that's the end of the quote. Caused by Barr and Trump's intervention in politically sensitive cases. Well, now, deepening crisis to whom? The deep state? Your capability of holding your seat when you violate your oath of office? You want to Next day, Barr said in a televised interview that Trump should stop the tweeting, please. Well, just be selective. That's all you got to do. Mr. President, I like your tweets. I think it's funny when you tell somebody that they're that they're nasty enough that they probably would clog up a toilet. Barr reportedly told sources close to the president he didn't stop, he'd resign. I don't think so. I think Barr's got more tenacity and bulldog about him, so I'm going to call that BS. I might have to resign if he keeps it. I can imagine an off-the-cuff comment, but something serious? No. On Barr's orders, the department is pursuing investigations, former FBI and CIA officials involved in the Russia investigation, as he should. Why? Because it's all funky. The process to receive and vet information about Democrat Joe Biden, and his son, that Trump's personal attorney Giuliani is digging up from dodgy pro-Russian sources in the Ukraine. Well, if it's so dodgy, why is the Ukraine now officially investigating this? Ooh. Deep state. Barr must go. Boston Globe. Trump is his own worst enemy. Wall Street Journal. Don't mistake Barr's rebuke of Trump for a principled stand. New York Mag. The ongoing Democratic hysteria over Barr is a cliche of the Trump era. This is a Washington Examiner report, and I've got Washington Examiner right here. I'm going to cover a couple things in it, but someone should tell the resistance that above the law is a banal phrase that actually means, I don't like that. Take your snowflake and find your safe place, and I will personally buy you some crayons and a coloring book. Barr may have done the right thing for the right reason. Ooh, that comes from the Hill. Many legal experts had conceded that even 7 to 9 years for someone was excessive. They got it down to 3 years, 4 months. Deep state, here we go again. Not since Watergate have I seen such an un-American assault on the core principles that have guided our justice system. You got no idea what it is. And this is from the Atlantic. Now, this is supposedly somebody who was a former deputy attorney general. Everybody's entitled to an opinion. In chilling terms, Barr has repeatedly stated that the Constitution endows the president with nearly autocratic powers with total authority over the Justice Department and the right to order and end investigations. Think about that. To order and end investigations. You can do that. Okay. Insists that Congress and the courts have encroached on the president's autonomy and that their oversight is mere harassment. I'm inclined to agree with that. They've been harassing Trump for quite a while. Now, once I used to live in Florida, and I seen a bunch of blue jays chasing a hawk. This is a pretty good-sized hawk. He was definitely prolific in terms of his stature. And they kept squawking and whatnot, and then one of them was brazen enough and stupid enough to land right near the hawk, continued to squawk. I don't know if you've been around blue jays, if you've ever seen them, but he continued to squawk. The hawk looked around and tried to mind his own business, and this blue jay wouldn't leave him alone. He looks over at the blue jay and thump, crash, bang, ate him. All the other blue jays quit squawking. Now, that is an example of a one-timer where you take out one, bingo. All the rest decide maybe it ain't worth it. Sanders, can he win broad support? Answer's no. Why? He's a socialist. Then you got Idaho seeing an influx of vaccine refugees from California, which now requires virtually all school children to be immunized. If your immunity shots didn't kill the kids, there might not be that problem. For our lobster lovers, the price plunged. Why? The fun and games with the stop of the shipping cut off air shipments from lucrative Chinese markets. Oh, lobster at a decent price. President Trump pardoned Blagojevich. Well, I can understand that. He already put in several years in the pokey. So then you got the shakedown artist, Avanti. This is New York City. Guilty. Is found guilty of trying to extort $25 million from Nike. He also stole a bunch of money from all his clients. Guess what? They got the records. Dude, you're going to get, they're going to take you and put super glue on the wall and stick you there somewhere. Migrants are easy prey. This is from Mexico. 75% have been abducted for ransom by criminal groups. 45% have suffered violence or rape, becoming a big business. Big business. It's a way for the drug cartels to diversify. London, pardon for Assange? Should be. Then you got Berlin, plot against Muslims. Germany, the German police stopped a far-right terrorist plot to stage simultaneous mass casualty attacks on mosques, politicians, and asylum seekers. Oh, there are calls here that appear to have become radicalized. There are cells, not calls, cells here that seem to become radicalized in a short order of time. The suspects had a stockpile of weapons, including guns, grenades, crossbows, and even spiked maces. Ooh, nasty, huh? Russia, here we go. Curbing Tatar rights. Part of President Putin's drive to stamp out ethnic separatism. Now, think about that very carefully. And it makes sense that they would do that. Oh, boy. Beijing, and I covered this, I think, a while back, but I'm going to hit it again. China has taken the extraordinary step of expelling 3 Wall Street Journal reporters, 2 Americans and an Australian, in a peek over an op-ed critical of its economy. Ooh, what's China hiding? You know, Anthony Weiner is facing strong opposition from parents at his son's Manhattan school who don't want the registered sex offender allowed on school grounds. This needs to continue. This needs to spread like free beer or some such. Compulsory voting. Can you imagine this? This is from the Boston Globe, but should it be illegal to sit out an election? Massachusetts State Representative Dylan Fernandez has introduced a bill that would require state residents to vote in every election or be fined. Maybe they ought to start with the boy that thinks that's a good idea. Puritanical moralizing is un-French. American-style Puritanism has infected French politics. Oh, well, if you weren't subject to corruption, you wouldn't have that trouble. Hello, France, how you doing? Netherlands, all right, keeps lying about immigrants. Really? Not really. They're having severe problems now. The EU is trying to force everybody to take a certain amount of people. And guess what? Nobody's having it. Poland put their military on the border and said, you try to come in here and we'll kill you. Well, can't afford to take care of the world. Nobody can. United Kingdom, Labour Party splinters over trans rights. Well, the invalidation of this is there is nothing that says trannies or transitions or people that are both sexes has any special parts. The Labour Party. Descending into a civil war over trans rights. It lost dozens of long-held seats in the working-class areas to Prime Minister Boris Johnson's Conservative Party. Well, they may not have the rights and they may not want to play with it, but Labor was clear that its far-left leader, Jeremy Corbyn, had to be replaced. Ooh, that's the Labor Party. Alienating women, radical 12-point plan drawn up by a previously unknown group of trans rights activists. You ain't got no special rights. Get over yourself. Allowed in all trans women should be allowed in all women-only spaces. Ooh. Expelled from the party. Domestic violence refugees, women's prisons, restrooms, to be expelled from the party if specifically calls out to left-wing groups, Women's Place UK and LGB Alliance, as transphobic organizations whose members must be shamed and shunned. Ooh. And they got a hashtag, expel me. Well, this is about as much horse hockey as it gets. Labor members who refuse to be on the right side of history, don't forget to close the door on the way out. When the left competes for wokeness, lovely, the only winner is the right. Can't labor just acknowledge that two sides of an argument exist? Answer's no. Why? Well, you want to get all the press you can get. Then you got Canada. Do protesters speak for the First Nations? Some do. Government rule over rights, or corporation rule. The Canadian economy is being held hostage by environmentalists and Indigenous right activists. Toronto Sun. Agreements with 20 elected First Nations band councils along the route include 5 of the 6 councils in the, I don't know if I can pronounce that, Wet'suwet'en Nation. But Hereditary Chief claim the authority of those councils applies only to federal reservations, not to the 8,500 square miles of traditional territory, and was land that was never formally ceded to Canada. Remember that. Set in the middle of the $5 billion pipeline's path. The chiefs have refused to give the Coastal GasLink access to the land. Last week, the police went after them, enforced a court injunction, and cleared Indigenous activists from the work site. Well, protests have soon erupted across the country. Vancouver, Edmonton, Ottawa saw sit-ins, marches, while Mohawk activists blocked train tracks, causing Canadian Railways to shut down freight traffic as well as passenger service. Oh, my God, thousands of riders were inconvenienced. How inconvenient would it be if they were on them train tracks through your backyard or up your Watusi? That's all you got to understand. We had a similar thing here. Governance by elected council was imposed on us to create a one-size-fits-all Indian Act version of a federally regulated municipality. Each First Nation has its own traditional forms of governance. It goes on and on. The issue goes to the heart of the Canada First Nations relationship, but the chiefs traditionally speak for the whole nation until a balance of power can be formally agreed. Canadian authorities, not First Nations, will continue to call the shots. So that means that you are indentured servants, just like here in the States. My. Slaughter of women in Mexico goes unignored. Heads of the Commission on Violence argues that misogyny is entrenched in society and so must be fought in the family, in the school, in the unions, in the institutions, in the churches. That's a cop-out, according to Carmen Brenna. The president has almost total power in our political system. Lopez Obrador has simply chosen not to use it to halt the mounting casualties in the war against women. And you think the cabals are bad, you think those cartels are nasty, you should see their mass graves. Airline seats. Reclining dispute gets physical. Yeah, well, there's limitations on things, and one of those is not in my lap, period. You don't like it? Well, maybe you should move. You want to recline? Oh, they got a recline button, so therefore they have the right? No, And you want to get into the fun and games, Airlines operate under the maritime legal stature of a carrier, and you are cargo, and they can do with you as they see fit. Think about that very carefully. Maybe we need to change some laws. Oh, Kelly, no longer silent. John Kelly's jumped off the Trump train. Ooh, Boston Globe. Defended Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindeman, decorated war hero who was pulled from the National Security Council and escorted from the White House in retaliation for his impeachment testimony. When you make shit up and lie about stuff, yeah, I agree. Throw the boy in the trash. Kelly is warning America that Trump is an insecure, vindictive man who retaliated against a career Army officer who literally bled for his country. Now, what about WikiLeaks? If this guy is innocent and he can out things that are nasty or considered to be classified, how about Julian Assange? Come on, Kelly gave voice to an even greater heresy. Ooh, on CNN.com. Kelly's about face is welcome. Oh, the Daily Beast loves it. New Jersey Star-Ledger. Speaking of now, won't wipe the stubborn orange stain off their reputations. Anything to get Trump. If anything goes wrong, Trump did it. Make Bloomberg why Democrats are torn. Make the bad man in the White House go away. Ooh, Democrats look like raging hypocrites. Nice little article they got here. Trading one would-be authoritarian for another. Oh, boy, that's from New York Times. Bloomberg has imperial instincts. New York's third bulldozes his way to a third term, even though the law limited him to 2. Well, how come somebody didn't in the DOJ didn't take it up? Well, at the time, the DOJ was just as tainted as everybody else is. Over those 12 years, he turned the city into a surveillance state to combat both terrorism and crime, deploying cameras, facial recognition, undercover officers to spy on civilians, even surveillance drones. In Trump's assault on our democratic institutions' norms, we face a national emergency. Yeah, the emergency is that we are catching up. Us good guys are catching up with the bad guys. Think about that very carefully. Oh, my. And somebody actually named things correctly. It ain't a pandemic. It's an epidemic. Get that through your head. Get it straight. Look it up. Epidemics, a disease of the disinformation age. Nope. Flood of fake posts. National Review. Public officials need to think hard about how they communicate in a new world in which they are far from the only source of compelling information. That means that we can make stuff up, post it online, and actually get results from it. Now, everybody knows about honeybees having problems. Well, bumblebees are in dire trouble. We got a lot up here in the woods. We got a lot of bumblebees, bees, wasps, and all that. Here we go. Book of the week: The Scientist and the Spy: A True Story of China, the FBI, and Industrial Espionage. Well, here's the thing: genetically modified corn on display at a trade show. There's only one little problem with that. You stick it out there, and the critters won't touch it. Now, that tells me that there's something intrinsically and very basically very wrong with GMO things. And I'll give you a heads-up warning. The pricey new apple at your supermarket is more than a product of marketing. With the cosmic crisp, for once, the hype is real. Horticulturists truly have developed a virtually perfect apple. These Washington-grown wonders are almost impossibly crispy and a sweet, strong fruit flavor that's tempered by lots of acidity. It's a GMO product. Stay away from it. GMO will make you sick. Oh, boy. Ooh, business. The news at a glance. Apple feeling chill from coronavirus. Well, This is a little article that has been on all kinds of different newscasts and whatnot. They say there's going to be a 30-day loss of supply that is going to take them probably years. It's like I told you about the Great Depression. 33 to 54 took 21 years to recover from it. We keep going like we're going here, we're going to have some fun and games. Federal judge last week ordered Microsoft to halt work on its $10 billion cloud computing for the Pentagon. Oh, Amazon want a stay of execution. That ain't going to last. The government can recruit, buy, or participate in business with anyone they choose. And no, Amazon, just because you got lots of money does not mean that you get to get more. Now, there's a reason for that. Look it up. Telecom's Huawei hit with RICO charges. RICO charges. Federal prosecutors have charged the Chinese telecom giant Huawei with racketeering and conspiracy to steal trade secrets from 6 U.S. tech companies. Bye-bye, Hawaii. Agriculture. Peach farmer wins Bear BASF payout. They got to pay $265 million for millions of acres of crop damage. HSBC slashes jobs. Focus on Asia. They're trying to fix it. Well, there's a problem with that. You're failing. Why are you failing? Well, it's pretty simple. You illegally create a whole bunch of fun and games, just like another financial institution, and guess what happens? You go in the toilet. I'm looking for something here. Bear with me a minute. Now, you might take a close look at what all has transpired and think about what it is that is changing and the extent to which it is changing. I have stipulated on more than one occasion, and I got some intel from a certain source that is connected, that the deep state and all their henchmen, let's say, are in deep trouble. Not just with this fun and games on the Dow and all that sort of thing, but also from the very, very intense, and it's being set up as I speak, effort to come after these people. Listen to this song and think about the words. Think about what it's talking about. And, Well, now, how about editorials from the Washington Examiner? Voters deserve to know what risk they're taking on Sanders' health. Basically, he's too frail. Oh, to make matters worse, Sanders' press secretary Joy Gray then went on TV and attacked people who were asking him to follow through on his promise to release medical records. She claims it's all part of a smear campaign, compared legitimate questions about his health to the birther conspiracies. Ooh, you just funky monkeys, we're going to flush the toilet. Given the stress, international travel, and mental and physical toll that presidents must endure, he's too frail. He won't make it. I'm telling you, he won't. Now, we got another one. The absurdity, now this is the title of the thing, absurdity of the Bernie Sanders and AOC's anti-fracking crusade. Senators and AOC have each introduced a bill in their respective chambers of Congress that would ban hydraulic fracturing or fracking. Now, wonderful. You're not going to get that passed. The U.S. now has become a net energy exporter. Think about that very carefully. Ooh, we got noxious social justice activism. I'll get into some of that, too. Every historical attempt at socialism has involved such plans which are always end in failure. Now, here's the red line or red print. Fracking is the method that has revolutionized oil and gas exploration in the United States, suddenly trebling the amount of recoverable oil and gas, making the nation energy independent overnight. Now, that's a lie, straight up. Why? Well, we are a net energy exporter. That's why it's a lie. Very simple. Why should we power other nations with what we got? Socialism versus America. This is kind of light duty, but Trump doesn't want to run against Joe Biden. Really? So what? He put out some Spanish language attack ads in Nevada. Think about it. The answer is the word socialist. Young voters from whom Cold War is an antediluvian history. Ooh. That's the idea of socialism and free stuff. Obama tried to give away phones, and he couldn't even do that. So, socialism, whether of the Soviet or any other variety, is anti-American, or to put it unfashionably, un-American. Socialism is the antithetical, or the antithesis, or the opposite to democracy, and democracy is the heart of America. Sanders dismisses reference to communism as cheap shots. It's not wrong. They're caught in the act. Oh, my God. Trying to end Trump presidency before it began. Hello, deep state. There's a lot of things that people are not aware of. That's why I'm reading some of this shit. Waging war against the Great Lakes. Well, really, the Great Lakes are at the highest level ever. And they're beginning to take their toll on the people that think it's cute to live on the shore. They're not battling. They're not waging a war against the Great Lakes. They're trying to tell Mother Nature to cut the shit. Well, oh my goodness! Excuse me. Campus conservatives open-mindedness. Not. Prestigious universities known for their students writing against conservative speakers on campus. Oh. A substantial minority expressed little tolerance for unpopular opinions. Well, who cares? Who cares? Who cares? Appropriate to respond by creating an obstruction such that the campus speaker endorsing this idea could not address the audience. Well, that's called violation of the First Amendment right of free speech. If you want to conduct yourself that way, I want the leader of the group to come on down. We're going to have a discussion, open mic. 22% of liberals say their campus would be a better place without conservatives. That's only 22%. That's like a fifth. 15% of conservatives felt the same way about liberals. Well, whoopity-doo. Actually, the fun actually comes from apprehension about the consequences of expressing specific viewpoints. It's no surprise to see the extent of political polarization on campus. Well, hello, professors, socialist mothers, you. Yeah, that's right. You heard what I said. Quit teaching socialism. Ah, boy. Now we're going to hit on a nice one. Fixing the FBI and CIA. Well, no due process required. They can do what they want. No enforcement of these things. No prosecution. What should we do? Accountability? Start over. Really? Well, erase the salient distinction between law and politics. Under the guise of national security, we instituted governmental actions and policies from the reckoning of our citizens. The citizens didn't tell you what to do. You did what you felt like you wanted to. Foreign counterintelligence surveillance powers based on a fever dream that is not appropriate any longer. Donald Trump was an agent of the Kremlin. Oh, yeah? Prove it. The Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court recently chastised the FBI for feeding it false and unverified information. Well, maybe you should adjudicate them into court and see what they really got to say about themselves. Oh, we did it for politics. Okay, that's 2 to 5. Democrats defend the polarization of law enforcement and intelligence that resulted in the Trump-Russia investigation. Republicans wail about being victimized. And you got the Ukraine shuffle, in which the president sought, however futilely, to leverage the investigation and foreign affairs powers of the executive branch for domestic political advantage. Well, that's a blatant, flat-out lie. I know whoever authored this is full of shit. Oh, that's McCarthy. Okay, well, McCarthy, you got a lot to learn. You really do. Why do I say that? Because I got sources that say different. Oh, my. Faces of impunity. That means they're above the law. James Clapper, former National Intelligence Director James Clapper, former CIA Director John Brennan, former FBI Director James Comey, above the law? No. Democrats invested in defending the Russia investigation and its excesses. Well, maybe they need to be sent a bill for the problems. Politically like-minded. In the supervisory ranks, Republicans pay lip service to limited government political accountability while continuing to see national security and law and order hawkishness as key to political success. Any questioning of the status quo is, as opposed to criticism of the individual abuses that the status quo reliably produces, is framed as a green light to foreign sabotage and domestic lawlessness. Hello, Democrats. Oh, my. The politicization of law enforcement and intelligence gathering threatens everyone, all of us, regardless of political persuasion, and officials seem always to escape accountability. Well, that's about to change. This guy, Mr. McCarthy, defended this stuff. We see several Trump operatives, Carter Page, Michael Flynn, George Papadopoulos, Roger Stone, Paul Manafort, subjected to groundless surveillance or prosecuted with unseemly zeal for process crimes, and usually misleading investigators, or for offenses related to the fictional Trump-Kremlin conspiracy. Government officials who misled investigators, judges, and lawmakers evade prosecution. Not anymore. Barr is coming. Andrew McCabe, will not be indicted, despite serially misleading agents who were probing a media leak that he orchestrated. No, that they made up. You can make evidence. The immense powers wielded by our law enforcement and intelligence apparatus are essential to protect the United States. Really? That depends on whether they go overboard. The agencies wield them, as currently constructed, are not. Oh, they're not doing it for that reason. They're doing it for political gain. The intelligence community performance is often subpar. Promoted misconceptions that they and their intrusive information collection techniques are fit tools for the tasks at hand. Oh, boy. The notion that international terrorism is primarily a law enforcement matter led for years to a focus on post-attack prosecutions rather than prevention. Where you guys been hiding? Why ain't you been doing your job? You're supposed to stop it before it starts. And you get all these innocent people get their phone records caught up in this mess. Heaping over more hay in the stack somehow makes the needles easier to find. Mission-focused, warehouse information, political responsibility, and government officials who carry it out must be accountable. I agree. It's a politicized bureaucracy, as this states. In 1967, Katz versus the United States, the government must respect property rights. Think about that very careful. New rule, public's expanding conception of zones of personal activity and intercourse that should be shielded from prying investigative eyes, brokering the eternal tension between security and privacy, and all this other happy shit. And it continues. FISA. FISA court. FBI and judges were, let's see here, the court was not saying that foreign powers and their agents are entitled to the due process protection. That's good. That's great. Well, how come we ain't filling up the prisons with these ass wipes? The FBI and judges are already making policy decisions about where constitutional protections should yield to law enforcement demands. It's 1978. Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act started out from Watergate. FISA empowered federal judges to oversee the executive's foreign intelligence collection. FISA is heedless of the more serious constitutional problem, the transfer of responsibility for innately political national security decisions to non-political unelected officials, i.e., away from democratic accountability. I mean, you know, it goes on and on. Everybody knows about this stuff, but I'm elucidating slightly because it's important. Here it is. The FBI arrogantly insists on independence from political oversight, not just in criminal cases, but even when it is carrying out national security functions. It wants a free hand to act and even make policy judgments in the political realm, but it demands insulation from political accountability. Well, here's a couple of things. The FBI should be relegated to the investigation and prosecution of crime. Fully agree with that. That's what it's for. Foreign counterintelligence missions should be transferred to other intelligence community components and subjected to beefed up congressional regulation and oversight. FISA should be repealed, they say. The courts return to their judicial role of providing a forum for those injured by governmental overreach rather than aiding and abetting any overreach. That's where they should be. CIA is obsolete, politicized, and counterproductive. This is stripped down the so-called deep state, a Leviathan, that warehouses mountains of intelligence to the detriment of our liberties and with dubious benefits to our security. Repeal FISA. National security against foreign powers is one thing. Doing nasty things against the people, we the people, something totally else. Oh boy, here's another Sanders diatribe. Never Sanders needs to step up its game. Where are the people crashing Sanders rallies with Soviet flags and blaring the Soviet national anthem over their phones? Or putting on Marx, Lenin, and Stalin masks? Come on, guys. You got an enemy of the state running for control of the state. What do you do with that? Well, here we go. Hey, big spender. Hello, Bloomberg. Mike Bloomberg's presidential candidacy should force voters to decide how they want campaigns to be funded. Pretty simple. It's not difficult. And then we got this human rights horse hockey that's going to get out of control. Already has to some extent. Let's see here now. Everybody's concerned about social justice, and you got these radical social justice dinks running loose. You say something on Twitter, and they all go after you. We, collectively we, the privilege pyramid, we are all wrong. So who's right? That's, ideology fueled the reordering of politics and culture to eradicate meritocracy. That's BS. You ain't stopped squat. You made a lot of noise, and that's about it. Privilege is an outgrowth of the social justice movement, that branch of political activism that asserts there's an inherent unfairness and prejudice rooted in American life. Oh, unfairness manifests itself in the oppression, grievance, and victimization of women, non-whites, gays, lesbians, and even transsexuals. It's an ideology that demands that the country's very foundations, customs, and order be reordered to right all its wrongs. You can't legislate morality no matter who you think you are. if you didn't suffer adequately, you don't make the grade because of the movement. Because the movement operates largely by using shame. It can sometimes seem that the shame itself is the objective. There you go. Boy. Nitsky. This is what this is based on. Identifying and criticizing the notion that those at the bottom of civilized society should be presumed virtuous and admirable simply because of their suffering and disadvantages. But that concept is precisely what forms the basis of the present social justice movement. The good, virtuous, and admirable are those who claim to have been aggrieved on account of their race, gender, or sexuality. Under social justice, asserting grievance and claiming oppression earns an individual a higher moral worth than those who are deemed privileged. Who has the power in American culture now? The social justice movement? That power is reinforced by Hollywood, news media, academia, and much of Washington political establishment. Social justice ideology spread through the universities. University academics then taught the students, screenwriters and journalists. What's seen in Hollywood, entertainment, and in national newspapers, on the TV news, and on the Internet becomes a piece of our collective culture with enough repetition. Remember them multiplication tables? With enough repetition, it's then absorbed into the mainstream. This is how social justice ends up everywhere. It's like a contagious disease. You can't say that. You can't have an opinion. How about kiss my water? See, I can too have an opinion. Classified. My. John Bolton thinks he's cool. The problem with it is that how much does John Bolton know about Ukraine scandal? Ain't a scandal, you dinks. Didn't listen to the president of the Ukraine, did you? He's not saying why. Classified is why. Wait for the book. What Bolton says when he asked about his White House tenure. The problem is that if you release classified information, you face jail time if published. Publishing date is March 17th. We'll see how that goes. I don't think you got. I don't think you're going to do very well, man. I really don't. I think you've already been screwed over and don't even know it. FTC looks into the relationship between political campaigns and online influencers. Oh, boy. Facebook demands disclosure when content is paid for by campaigns and brands. Nope. No, you don't. You're a liar. Yeah, that's right. How do I know? Well, if it agrees with politically, it's fine. But there's no questions or disclosure of any kind, of any reason. Bingo. We're allowing U.S.-based political candidates to work with creators to run this content, provide the political candidates who are authorized, and the creator disclosed any paid partnerships through our branded content tools. Oh, you're not mandatorily required to disclose. The crux is the issue of disclosure. Here we go. That a person who sees the content can plainly understand it as a paid content, not organic. Well, advertising more transparent on Facebook than television, print, or other online services. That's a lie, dude, and you know it is. Why? Well, you keep shadow banning people that got something to say just because they don't agree with your politics. In either case, we believe it's important people know when they're seeing paid content on the platforms. Well, fine. Make a requirement that you got to say so. Bloomberg's efforts have become the first test case in a policy the company is still working out and which, for now, applies only in the United States. Now, the problem with all this is that the FTC study aims at finding out if influencers actually have any influence, deciding if something exists before working out how to regulate it. That means that these agencies, the FTC, Federal Trade Commission, and the Federal Communications Commission, don't have the skills to figure out what's real and what ain't. And then there's a little blurb from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, closing the skills gap. The only problem with that is that work gets in the way. 4-letter word, but it's there anyway. You got to work if you're going to get paid or advantages. Trump has few alternatives to yucca. Expanding nuclear power requires waste disposal sites, and options are limited. Yeah, well, you guys are stupid. You need to do the double burn. It eliminates the waste. And you heard me. Takes all of the radiation out of it. Ooh, Senator Christian Gillibrand wants a new privacy agency. So, I mean, it gets quick. The ugliest, nastiest boat in the Navy. Democrats are trying to delegitimize the labor watchdog agency under Trump. Chuck Schumer attacks board decisions instead of filling vacancies. And what's that about? Don't fix it, just complain. National Labor Relations Board, primary federal labor watchdog agency, has had an all-Republican board since December. Democrats have shown more interest in criticizing the board than in adding Democrats. Frequently attacks Democrats all the time, aggressively reinterpreting old rules to benefit labor organizing. Won't work. National Labor Relations Board needs to be revamped. Not difficult to understand this stuff. A lot of people are right about that part of it. There are other things that go into this that get really funky. Quick fix for multi-employer pensions. Unlikely on Capitol Hill. Why? Dems are too busy chasing Trump to legislate. I'm going to say that again. Dems are too busy chasing Trump to legislate. And this is pensions, not having a sufficient amount of resources to distribute benefits they were promised to that were promised to retirees. Ooh, benefit cuts. Oh my goodness. They need to do an about face on that. Discussion on how to fix the multi-employer pension problem is ongoing. We're going to talk about it before we legislate. In total, as many as 117 employer pensions covering 1.4 million participants are underfunded by $56.5 billion. Plans don't have enough money to pay the full promised benefits. According to pension actuarial firm, participants will lose their pensions. And rescued Trump signed a law of $1.4 trillion spending bill that also rescued the 1974 Mine Workers of America pension plan from insolvency. First time in more than a generation, taxpayers bailed out a pension plan. They're still talking about it. They think it's cool. Talk about something until they wear it out. Now, I have covered basically what I intended to cover in the news and what's going on. There's a couple of opinion columnists, Gurdon, Bill Barr, Black Sheep, Doesn't Suffer Fools. A conservative journalist who was also there pressed him on in a voice heavy with frustration to pursue conspiratorial lines of inquiry against President Trump's perceived enemies. Barr returned to do you think I'm stupid? Is there undermining the department? Is thereby undermining the Department of Justice? No, but the Dems want to. Barr complained. President's tweets made it impossible for me to do my job. Now, the president made his ablest lieutenant look bad by incontinent tweeting. I'm going to have to agree with that. I don't like it. Mr. Trump, please, be selective. He will allow evidence where it leads without fear or favor. He won't prosecute cases he deems weak, nor will he shy away from others where he believes he can secure a conviction. He's the kind of attorney general who makes wrongdoers tremble, and he's coming after a whole load of Democrats. Barr demonstrated mastery of the subject at his confirmation hearing and has demonstrated a massive competence and dignified imperturbability ever since. Can't perturb the guy. Trembling wrongdoers, Barr is the last best hope that justice will be delivered to the deep state shysters who invented the Russia collusion hoax and used it for years to undermine a president they did not like and whose fair election they refused to acknowledge. Enough said on that. What English America did right. Not quite. Americans take for granted things. This is Hannon. That are luxuries for many other southern neighbors. Clean water, steady electricity, decent schools, quality health care, non-corrupt judges. Well, I don't know about that. Regular elections. Power and money were hoarded in the hands of a small elite. Wealth came primarily from the predation rather than production. 1618 Virginia Company offered every settler 50 acres plus 50 more for every family member who joined. I mean, there's, the bribery and whatnot's been going on since the get-go and before. Here you got York. Who's complaining about investigations now? Well, almost his entire article is red line. Attorney General William Barr is looking into the murky origins of the political charge Justice Department investigations that have roiled American public life for the last 3 years. Now, as Barr looks into how it all started, some voices that were part of the frenzy are changing their tune about the value of investigation. They now express concern about investigations. Concern that Barr is politicizing the Justice Department to go after perceived political enemies. When you become an enemy of the state, you're everybody's enemy. Washington Post, oh my goodness, NBC, CNN. Not to be too blunt about it, but where were these voices the last 3 years? Hello? Think about that very carefully. Think about that very carefully. That's critical. These dummies want to complain about, you ain't investigating diddly squat. Well, now that they're getting investigated. Ooh. Then you get the Steele dossier. Where were they when the public learned that the FBI, using false information, wiretapped a low-level foreign policy advisor, Carter Page, giving it entree into some of the campaign's communications? Where were they when the Justice Department cooked up the idea that Flynn had violated the Logan Act, 1799 law under which no one has ever been convicted, as a reason to question Flynn? Where were they when officials bragged about going outside channels to grab a chat with a busy, distracted Flynn and later used that as the basis for a false statement charge, even though investigators did not believe Flynn actually lied? Ooh. They have paid a high price in both money and reputation for running afoul of the investigative apparatus. So, guess what? Who's going to return a favor? Investigations where a potential political benefit for the people orchestrating them. The ones doing it. Hello, Dems. As much concern to the combination of the opposition politicians, that's the resistance, and never Trump activists and a go-along press that fed the investigation machine since before Trump took office. The targets were figures unpopular with Democrats and many of the media. Oh, hey. Former FBI number 2 and current CNN commentator, got a job for his efforts. Andrew McCabe played a role in the excesses we now associate with the Trump-Russia investigation. He is complaining about the Justice Department internal investigation, whether he lied under oath, oh my goodness, to agents seeking the source of a high-level leak. Oops. McCabe is indignant about the treatment meted out by the investigative targets, him being one of them. Oh, no, don't get me particularly angry that the investigation took a long time. It's just an absolute disgrace that they let this thing drag out as long as they did. And he said that on CNN and put my family through what we've gone through over the past 2 years. I'm just disgusted at the way the whole thing has been handled. Well, guess what, dude? Comeuppance is a mother, ain't it? an investigation lasting seemingly forever and putting one's family through hell? Imagine that, coming from McCabe. The lack of self-awareness is so pronounced that it would be darkly funny. Were not the events of the last 3 years so serious? You come after the President of the United States for the shit that you did? Well, Klein. Bernie Sanders would turn quality health care into a privilege for very few. That's socialism, and Klein covers it immensely well. GOP's severe vision of America's future is clear at the border. Here we go. Now, this is good. I've talked about this. Illegal aliens. Illegal aliens. I hope you love that sound of that. I do. Sanctuary cities and states ostensibly provided humanitarian aid to those who are merely refugees. Now, violating what? but the ugly side of this is that the dopes who supported these policies are violating their oaths of office, violating federal law, and violating human rights of their citizens by releasing some very dangerous people back into the communities these elected officials were supposed to represent. Democrats have introduced legislation to provide millions of attorney hours to illegal aliens, including those already deported after having their day in court. Leftists have also promoted legislation to give free health care, education, and other benefits to illegal aliens. And they have already extended the franchise to illegal aliens in local and state elections. Ultimately, Democrats have tried to prevent border enforcement by their failed impeachment of the president, generating lawsuits to prevent enforcement, and filling the leftist media with false narrative to engender sympathy for those who ignore our laws. Ooh, there's two stark versions. I prefer the one that respects the rule of law, defends our sovereignty, and attempts to keep the rights and safety of American citizens paramount. That's Biggs. I like what he says. I really do. He don't miss a beat. Now, we're going to get into one other little area that has been asked repeatedly. Very simply, if America is so nasty, why are people trying to get into the U.S.? How is it and why is it that we have a large load of our political and let's say just plain old enemies? Why are they trying to get in? Why is it that everybody and their mother-in-law who makes investments and runs investment companies is trying to invest in the U.S.? How come all this stuff is looking different than what it was just 3 weeks ago? Why is all of the fun and games all of a sudden coming home to roost to us? Real simple. It's not difficult, but you got to know what's going on in order to be able to understand that. There is a very serious problem, and nobody's got the answer. We have people from our so-called enemy states, such as China, Russia, Iran, the Ukraine. Now, the Ukraine's kind of split. The people that want freedom, they've gone with the separatists. Think that over very carefully. But why are people trying to get into the U.S.? Now, there used to be a huge number of Mexicans coming across the border down south. Guess who is ruling the roost now in terms of numbers? Chinese. Now, why would people desert China and come to the U.S.? Well, it's pretty simple, actually. Somebody screwed up in China and let the cat out of the bag. Now, what I mean by that is that they let the cat out of the bag in terms of being able to keep secret the fact that the world, I'm talking about the whole planet, was just about to fall over dead on a financial basis. Not everybody, and no, you won't have as much population to reduction as everybody would like to think. Anyway, what this comes out to be is that somebody in China let the cat out of the bag. So the Chinese now are the largest illegal alien group coming to the States. Okay. Russia is not capable in terms of their people allowing this sort of large number to migrate legally, illegally, or whatever. China has been a seafaring nation since the get-go. Now you know how they're getting here. Well, they don't come right to here. Where do they come? They show up in a place called Mexico. Now, what we've got is a simplistic situation. This is the only deal, and you might want to bear this in mind, even though the stock market's going in the toilet, bear this in mind. We are the only ones who have a deal that actually looks for sanctuary. Now, the sanctuary they're looking for is not something that people really understand. The cat out of the bag is the projections. The projections into the future are that the United States, that's America, that's us, are going to be the one standalone bright spot, shining light on the hill that all these people have been looking for and have not found where they're coming from. You can pick any of the southern states in South America, any of them. People are trying to get here. You can pick people from Europe. They're trying to get here. The situation is critical for them. Now, here's why I say that. We're going to be okay for about 2 years, and I say about. It's not absolute. Approximately 2 years. We'll get along just fine as is. The things in terms of manufacturing and people having to work is going to change. And the change is going to be that if we want something, we're going to have to make it ourselves, build it, or however you want to look at that. That has been high-level classified information for a long time. It started back in 2001. That's when it started. Remember 9/11? Think about that. Think about 2001 starting, and think about they tried to blow up USS Liberty, and it didn't work. Nobody's ever been forced to pay reparations to the sailors that they shot. Hello, Israel, how you doing, you turkeys? You're supposed to be an ally, and you do this to start a war? Give it up. You try to say 6 million Jews. I hate to tell you, but there wasn't that many. There wasn't that many. Maybe half or less of that. Think about it. Let's get everything straight. So what's happening is that the critical mass of truth and law enforcement is getting ready to hit the fan. And I ain't talking about small chunks. You're talking Greyhound bus-sized things hitting a rotating oscillator. You're talking about spreading doopy all over the place. Now, these people are about to have their comeuppance. How do I know this? I have sources that have verified and validated what I'm telling you right now. I'm not going to lie to you, and I'm not going to varnish it up with sugary coatings or any of that. Why are people trying to get in the U.S.? Because we are going to be the only one that can stand alone. It's going to be the only place where reasonable justice is found. Now, outside of all of the fun and games with that, you have the financial system going in the toilet. The central banks have stipulated that they do not have the wherewithal to fix it. They can't fix it. They don't know how. Well, if you get in control of the virus, maybe we can do something. Well, guess what? There is an antidote to that. There is an antidote to that. Been around since the stuff was created, just about. How does this work? Well, you genetically modify something, program it to do nasty things, and then you turn around and find out what kills it before it ever goes anywhere. Now, there were 3 labs involved. The last of which was the one that escaped from in China. Ooh, that was not an accident. The dummies that are known as the deep state thought they were all that and opened Pandora's box. And it turned around and bit them on the ass. That's why they're having to sell gold out of cash. Okay. The situation is not bleak. Trump, among others, have been setting up the new enforcement of justice situation all over the states. Now, if anybody's been paying attention, Trump just won the capability to cut off federal funds to sanctuary areas, whether it's a state, municipality, or what. Doesn't matter. You don't get no federal funds. Well, I wonder how much that includes. Does that include the whole thing, like food stamps, Social Security? I mean, think about it real carefully. These people are in the toilet. You got to know how deep your hat is in the toilet before you can actually take some kind of action that will benefit everybody. The virus is being attended to, and I mean it's being attended to big time. Ain't nobody being left out, and ain't nobody. There's not going to be a requirement. You might end up being quarantined to see if you got it, and if you got it, then maybe you might want a shot, because there ain't the only shot that I know of, and it's independent labs. Independent labs have shit to do with the governments. Doesn't have anything to do with politics, and it doesn't have anything to do with money. Think about that very carefully. When I say independent, I mean total autonomy. That means not being able to be screwed with by anybody. And they got one. Oh, actually, they got 5 of them, working out which one's the best. And they're also at the same time mass producing it, because each one of them has a beneficial effect on people who are sick. Well, the situation is that it's going to take until summer. Think about this very carefully. It's going to take until summer to get this radical piece of junk that the deep state dropped in our laps under control of some sort. Well, if it can go down, or if our finances can go in the toilet every day to some extent, I mean, think about $6 trillion just going poof and disappearing. Think about that number. Okay, so where does that leave us? We're going to have about 2 years to tool up to get everything running. The people that think that they're immune from participation, dude, if you're here, girl, lady, kids, whatever, if you're here, you get to go to work. Like it or not, you get to go to work. I know it's a 4-letter word, and a lot of people consider it nasty. But here's the thing. You got to be able to understand what it takes to put yourself in the position of the people that are trying to get some kind of a control mechanism going on this. That's first. Once that thing is under some sort of control, then your shipping and whatnot comes back. So, what you're going to have to realize is that some of the things that people have stipulated may come to pass the hard way. Now, all of the bad guys in the deep state, we got a list of your names, address, phone number. Oh, yeah, and by the way, your escape plan, guess what? You can play all the games you want, but when the United States Air Force tells you to land and they have to force land you, I don't guarantee where you're going to land. I don't guarantee that it's going to be safe. That load of gold you got or whatever it is you're taking with you ain't going to buy your way out of it. You're done. Think about that very carefully. Now, here's the alternative. They're going to try to do this through the efforts of enforcing the laws, as everybody's looking forward to, not just on we the people, but primarily primarily on these people that think that they're above the law. Think about that very carefully. Think about what the impact will be. What happens if somebody gets, what happens if they strip a guy naked because he's really nasty? Strip him naked, right? And paint the wall in his cell with super glue and stick him to it. You think that they won't or that they can't? A lot of the crimes that have been committed, hello, George Soros, a lot of the crimes you have committed, among others, in the United States are punishable by felonious treason law. That means you lose all your rights. We can put you in a 55-gallon drum and stick you in a hole in the ground and piss on you every time we go by if we really feel we want to. You don't have any rights, human or otherwise. You become less than human. Think about this. Think about what happens when the oligarchs get a taste of nasty. What has to be understood is very simple. Everything is getting ready to change. And by change, I mean heavy change. So, you know, what they're not going to know is when. What they're not going to know is who. What they're not going to know is how quickly these things happen or are going to happen, how well they're set up. I know some of the people, personally know some of the people involved in some of this. And, oh, my good Lord, those are not people you want to mess with. Here's a song. I want everybody to get charged. Here's a song for you that hopefully will charge your batteries a little bit. Pat Benatar is a singer and a half, and she did a great job with this production. Listen up. Everybody, I want everybody to understand this very clearly. There's going to be a mass recruitment. I'm going to put some notices out for people to join up in secret. Now, what that means is that we are setting up a special defense force to cover the United States, keep you safe. Anybody that comes out against that, I hate to tell you, but the license to kill will be issued. As soon as this thing starts going south big time, and we will be licensed to kill. Think about that. And I can confer the license, and so can a couple of others. We're going to have large forces all over the United States, specifically, watching. And the watchmen also have the right to open fire as needs. So anybody thinks it's going to be fun to jump the fence down the border, I'm trying to let you know ahead of time. I'm trying to give you a heads up. That's not going to be tolerated. There are people that would enjoy blowing you off the fence, and you might want to take that into consideration. Some of the classified video I've seen is really interesting. It shows night vision that pretty much is a very clear picture of the coyotes. We have weapons that can shoot that far, no problem. I will strongly suggest that the coyotes cease and desist. You might want to go back to your cartels and apply for transfer of goods or something, driving a truck. Here's how this goes. Cartels think that they're all that, and the problem is they're not. They have never seen, as I have, what a B-52 bomber can do to an area. Now, I'm talking about small hills disappearing. I'm talking about just like a farmer plowing a field, exactly what it is. And believe me, it ain't nice. Guess what? You guys are now on the target list. Part of this thing, Mexico doesn't have nothing to say about it. They're allowing this to go on without going in there full force military and taking out the problem. Therefore, we're going to do it. Now, what I want everybody to do is think about what you are looking at. Think about how you can assist. Put it together among yourselves, and go out there and get her done.
They call us the